Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Xony, and today we're going to have some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further, let's go. Now let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. My girlfriend and I have been together for almost 4 years. When I met her, I visited a local comedy club every week to try and participate in their open mic night. I had always enjoyed stand-up comedy, and being a comedian was a dream of mine. That didn't exactly pan out for me, but I met a lot of great friends and my girlfriend. She was an employee at the club. She was in college at the time, and she wanted to be a talent agent, so she thought she could make some good connections there. When she graduated, she landed a pretty good job at a local talent agency. She was working as a scout to bring in new talent. I ended up giving up on my comedy career, and I got a big promotion at my day job. I didn't have the time to go to open mic nights or work on my jokes, so it fell to the back burner. I still do love comedy, and I visit my friends at the club, but that's about it. My girlfriend and I continued seeing each other for a couple of years before she got a big break at the agency. We were living together at the time, and everything was going smoothly. She was somebody that I saw a future with, and I was ready to buy a ring and propose. However, whenever we would talk about marriage and starting a family, she would tell me that she didn't want any of that until she was at least 30. My girlfriend was working as a tour manager for a new comedian that the agency was representing. I won't say who it was, but they were on America's Got Talent, and they garnered a lot of attention very quickly. The comedians didn't get very far in the competition, but they gained a significant fan base from the time they were there. We had a long conversation before she accepted the job, just so she could make sure I was okay with it. The position would have her on the road frequently, and she was worried it would impact our relationship. I didn't want to hold her back in any way, so I told her to go for it. It was what she wanted to do, and I trusted her, so there was no reason for me to not want her to go. I met the comedian a few times. He and my wife had grown close from the time they spent together. When they first began working together, he was a newlywed. Over the years, he and his wife tried to have a baby. My girlfriend had been working with him for about 2 years when everything hit the fan. I had never suspected that they had anything more than a professional relationship with each other. The comedian landed a 3-month-long tour across the country. All of the shows were in pretty quick succession of each other, so when they were performing, they were on the road. I said goodbye to my girlfriend, not expecting to see her again until it was all over. A couple of weeks into the tour, I was curious, so I checked the schedule and saw that they were going to be in a nearby city, so I could surprise my girlfriend by attending a show. I saw that there was one about an hour waiting, so I bought tickets and booked a hotel room for us. When the weekend of the show came, I made my way to the club. I was standing outside in the line, waiting for my turn to get in. At one point, I was waiting in the line, waiting for my turn to get in. I was standing next to a narrow alleyway with a few people hanging out in it. They were all laughing and smoking, so I kind of assumed that they were employees of the club. I looked down the alleyway, and I noticed my girlfriend right away. I tried to look away and not make myself obvious because I was there to surprise her, but then I heard her giggling and it got my attention. It sounded a little flirtatious. I looked back. I saw the comedian she was managing pinning her to the wall and kissing her while her arms were wrapped around him. It was a very comfortable kiss. It definitely wasn't the first time it happened. When they finally pulled away, he made a joke about how that was his good luck charm. Somebody opened the door and called them in before I could see anything else. I didn't know what to do. I continued walking in the line almost like a zombie. I was in shock and completely stuck in my head. I needed to know if they had ever done anything more than kissing. The kiss was already not okay, but I needed to know if there was something more going on, especially considering that the comedian had a new baby at home. While I was in the line, my girlfriend spotted me. She rushed over to me and asked me what I was doing there. I told her that I was there to surprise her, and she brought me back to the green room. I had to smile and laugh with both of them while knowing that there could potentially be something going on with them. His set time finally came and my girlfriend went out after him to record his performance. She told me to stay behind in the green room because she was going to come and check in on me during the show. I didn't feel like watching his performance, so it was okay with me. I noticed that she left her purse behind when she left. I was alone in the green room, so I took the liberty of going through it. Inside her bag, I found an entire box of condoms. When I opened it, I saw there were only a couple left. She and I had been together for years, and I knew she was on the pill, so we didn't use condoms. I knew they had to be for someone else. That pretty much solidified it for me. She was obviously sleeping with someone, and from what I saw it wasn't too far a leap to confirm that it was the comedian. I stormed out of the green room, which happened to be right behind the stage, so everybody in the audience saw the door slam open before I rushed out of it. My girlfriend caught up to me and asked me what was wrong. I replied telling her that I knew she was sleeping with the comedian gesturing to him on stage. Of course, people started pulling out their phones and recording our little altercation. The comedian was trying to rein everybody back in to pay attention to him while we were fighting, but it wasn't working. I yelled at him while he was on stage too, but he didn't say anything. My girlfriend tried to tell me that I was wrong, but I told her that I saw her kissing him in the alley and I found the condoms in her purse. She didn't have anything to say about that. I went home as soon as I could after the arguments and tried to figure out what I wanted to do moving forward. Obviously, I wasn't going to be with her any longer. Our argument was no doubt humiliating for her at the time, but I wanted to do even more. I ended up calling the agency that she worked for and telling them that she was sleeping with one of their clients. I didn't know their employee conduct rules, but I imagine it was probably frowned upon. They told me that they would handle it from there. Some people shared the videos of the altercation online, and that seemed to have gotten back to the comedian's wife. From everything I could tell, they ended up getting a divorce. I can only hope it was because he was cheating on her and she found out. My girlfriend was let go from her job at the agency, and a lot of the clients she was managing were given to other agents. I knew she was disappointed with that, but that was just karma getting back at her in the end. I keep finding myself looking back at our relationship and trying to pinpoint if there were any signs before I caught her, but I don't think there were. To this day, I still don't know how long their affair lasted, but it must have been a while. Now let's get into the second story. My wife and I both met each other 15 years ago at summer camp. I had been attending the camp since I was a child, and when I was of age I applied to be a counselor. My girlfriend had actually just moved to the area and applied for a summer job there. She was a new girl to everybody else, who'd been going there for years. She was beautiful and right away I had a crush on her. We had our little summer flame and we didn't think anything else would come of it. However, we kept in touch and we eventually ended up going to college in the same city. From there our relationship turned romantic. When we graduated we got married shortly after and everything had been perfect between us. I truly loved her with all my heart and I thought she felt the same way. We had 2 children together and I had a great job, so she was able to stay home and take care of them full time. It was like the perfect American dream. I didn't have to travel often for my work, but every year there was a big company retreat in the mountains. It was for team building activities in theory. But it was just an excuse for everybody to get together and drink for an entire weekend. I looked forward to it all year long. I worked in the same office as my best friend, let's call him Mark. We met each other during our senior year of college, and we hit it off right away. I had never gotten along with another person quite the way I got along with Mark. We got each other a sense of humor, and we could talk about the strangest things for hours. He was hired at the firm we worked at first, then he saw a potential opening for me and he vouched for me. I thought I had him to thank for how great my life was in some respects. One of the reasons I was looking forward to going on the company trip was to spend some more quality time with Mark. The week of the trip came along, and everybody in the office was excited, including Mark. However, the Friday before we were set to leave, Mark didn't show up to work. I texted him and asked him what was wrong, and he told me that he must have had a very bad stomach bug. I asked him if he was going to be better by the time we left for the trip, and he said he wouldn't. I was bummed that Mark wasn't going to be able to go, but I didn't think it would stop me from having a good time while I was there. There are plenty of other people in the office that I got on with. Saturday morning came and I said goodbye to my wife and left for the trip. I had a wonderful time while I was there, and I never suspected that anything would have happened while I was gone. After all, my wife was home with our kids. I texted Mark a couple of times during the weekend, just to make sure he was alright. He told me that he was still in bed trying to recover, but he appreciated me checking in. I sent him a few funny pictures and videos of things that were happening while we were there. I got home from the trip Sunday night and was relaxing with my kids and telling them an abridged version of what happened over the weekend. My wife was always somewhat of a busybody. Relaxing was difficult for her in general. And she would often be going around the house and picking up toys and blankets and things like that to keep it tidy. The house was spotless when I came in, but she was still walking around and cleaning pointless things. In hindsight, I think she just didn't want to talk to me because she felt guilty. It was getting late, so I scooped up my kids and brought them to their rooms to tuck them in and say goodnight since I missed them the past couple of days. While I was kissing my son on the forehead, he asked me if Uncle Mark was going to be coming over again. First, I thought he was asking because he hadn't seen him in a while and missed him. I told him that I didn't know when Mark would be coming over again. Then he told me that the day before Mark promised him, he would be seeing him soon. I clarified with him and asked him if he had seen Mark the day before, and he confirmed it. I had no idea why Mark was at my house. When I was texting him, he told me that he was at home and recovering from the stomach bug. If he was at my house, that would mean that he lied to me. My suspicions were immediately raised because he wouldn't have lied to me about going to my house unless he was doing something he shouldn't have done. We were good friends and I trusted both him and my wife. If he needed to stop by my house for something, I would have understood. When I got to my bedroom, I mentioned to my wife what our son had said. She shrugged it off, saying that he must have been mistaken, and he might have been talking about a couple of weeks ago when Mark was over. My son was 4 years old at the time, so I doubted he would mention it if it was so long ago. I believed my son more than I believed my wife at the moment. However, I didn't have anything to prove my suspicions, so I dropped it. I went back to the office the following Tuesday morning and Mark was there, looking just as good as you ever did. I was still suspicious, so I checked in with him to see how his weekend went. He confirmed to me once again that he was home resting all weekend long. My gut was telling me that there was something seriously wrong, and I needed to get to the bottom of it. A few nights later, my wife left her phone in the living room while she went to do the dishes, so I snuck off to the bathroom with it. I hated going through her things, but I felt like I was being lied to, and I needed to know what the truth was. I looked through the text message conversation between her and Mark to see if there was anything suspicious. There were a lot of deleted messages between them. My mind wandered to everything that could have been in those messages. I did not doubt at that point that it was evidence of an affair. I was able to type in a passcode to look at her hidden album, and I found a lot of pictures of her naked. I found a few other pictures of a man whose face wasn't in the image, but I recognized a couple of tattoos as ones that Mark had. I was right to be suspicious after what our son had said. She did have Mark over, and they must have slept together while I was away for the weekend. I could only imagine that Mark faked being sick because he knew that there would be a window where he could be with my wife without having to worry about me. What angered me the most about all of this was the fact that they did it while my children were home. My son remembered seeing Mark there over the weekend. I didn't know the exact details about it, but I was furious. I put my wife's phone back before she noticed anything and I went to bed early. I needed to think about what I wanted to do moving forward. I was going to divorce my wife and I wanted nothing to do with Mark in the future. Whether that meant somehow getting him fired or finding a new job myself, I didn't know. All I knew was that I wanted to get back at both of them. I knew that Mark liked to flirt at the office, so I thought I might be able to do something with that. In particular, there was an assistant that he would often flirt with. The following day in the break room around lunch, he was flirting with her once again, touching her on the shoulder and laughing with her. It wasn't anything harmful. But under the right circumstances, it could be seen in a different light. I subtly took a couple of pictures of them while they were close together for later. When Mark left to go to a meeting, I talked to the assistant and I asked her if she felt uncomfortable around Mark sometimes. She looked at me kind of confused. It was obvious from some of their conversations that she was into him as well. She told me that she wasn't uncomfortable. I planted a seed in her head that how much she flirted with her and touched her could be considered sexual harassment. She nodded her head like she was thinking about it for the first time. That same day, I went to our HR department and filed a formal complaint that I thought Mark's behavior was inappropriate. It was anonymous, so he would never know that it was me. The following day, everything was going normally and he was pulled into the HR department for a meeting. Whenever things like that happen, people will either assume you're getting reprimanded for something or you're getting a raise. The very next day, we had a sexual harassment seminar in the workplace. Mark was publicly brought into the HR office just the day before, so everybody started putting the pieces together and thinking that Mark was responsible for the seminar. With all the conversations and rumors, the assistant he was hitting on started telling people that he made her uncomfortable and the narrative of Mark sexually harassing people at work took full form. Work got back to him and eventually, he came to me and asked me about it. He trusted that I would be honest with him about what people were saying. I told him that I didn't know what to believe. After all, he was sleeping with my wife, so he clearly couldn't be trusted. He was shocked that I said that, probably surprised to learn that I even knew about it. The talk didn't stop in the office and Mark eventually put in his 2 weeks' notice because he felt so uncomfortable. Meanwhile, I found an amazing divorce attorney and I served my wife with papers a few days before Mark quit his job. She was completely shocked by the news when she got it. She had no idea I knew about her and Mark being together. She tried to make me out as a villain for leaving her and the kids. I told her I had no intention of leaving the kids, just her. We got our divorce, and because she cheated, she wasn't awarded any spousal support. She was forced to go live with her mother and look for another job. I got full custody of the kids. The judge did not like that she was having an affair with the kids in the house so blatantly. She still has visitation rights to them though. It hurts the most when I think about how it wasn't just one person that I lost in all of this. I thought of Mark like a brother, and he and my wife both stabbed me in the back. I have a lot of stuff to work on for myself before I even consider dating in the future.